It looks as if the Smiths' new LP, Strange Ways Here We Come, will be their last. Just before its release, songwriter and guitarist Johnny Marr quit the group, and singer Morrissey has dramatic new plans too. More of those later. First, here's Morrissey on how his attitude to the Smiths' career changed over the years.
I think I've become a little bit slightly negative about the music industry, whereas perhaps 5 years ago, entering it, I felt very idealistic, that lots of things could be changed and everything could be, lots of people could be erased from the whole thing. And it isn't necessarily true, really, I find. So I've become a little bit sceptical, even more so than usual.
But you're doing interviews such as this, and you're changing record companies and things like that. I thought perhaps it worked the other way around, that you're becoming reconciled to having to do all those things.
Not really. I still have faith in the records themselves. So there are really separate worlds within this great big balloon, really. But generally, and even with interviews, I don't really do that many, but I think occasionally some should be done, really. I don't think total silence is very useful. But generally, the whole rhythm of the music industry, I don't really tend to understand anymore.
And Michael Jackson and people like that?
Well, I think they're really very special cases. I think they're very special cases. I think now they can afford to be quite silent because they have such a tremendous publicity machine. But I find generally that if, for instance, if I don't do that many interviews, the Smiths practically have no public profile whatsoever, because we're very rarely on English television and we're very rarely on daytime radio. So therefore, if there aren't interviews, we tend to really not really be anywhere, which is...
It might not be on the Prince or Michael Jackson scale of things, but you've been pretty well mythologised yourself, haven't you? Do you feel the need to dissipate that and actually be seen as a sort of smiling human being?
I've never felt that need. Not really. I've never felt that need. I've never belonged to the throng of the club sect or whatever. And even though I've been in London for a long time, I've never really been a part of any great clannish group of either club people or music industry people. I've kept quite insular.
Why?
It just happened that way, really. It was quite necessary. It was quite a sense of protection, really, because I didn't want to lose a particular vision I had of what I felt I needed to do. And I think it's so easy to do that if you become like a very busy socialite, and you're seen everywhere, and you do everything, and you know everybody. It distills something.
Don't believe us.
played 3 songs that are going to be on your next LP. I wondered if you could talk to me a little bit about a couple of those. Paint a Vulgar Picture.
Which is really, I expect, touches upon what we've just mentioned about the music industry and the rather, the very sour elements of it. Which Paint a Vulgar Picture is about how the death of a pop star is treated generally by record companies and how they tend to become very, they tend to utilise the death and exploit the person. And I find that really sad. It's never really done in a very touching and a very passionate way. It's always very gaudy, very cheap, very nasty, tending to really milk the whole situation. And also people, I think audiences generally tend to, when a person dies, it throws a different coloration on that person's career. And we tend to generally appreciate people a little bit more. Obviously, we're quite sad because they've died, but so there's several angles. We tend to be a little bit, audiences I think generally tend to be a little bit applauding, a bit generous, and record companies I find tend to be a little bit vicious.
Does this, I mean, or do the lyrics of the song apply to any particular hero of yours?
Well, not really directly. There have been some. There have been people I have liked immensely who have died, such as Mark Bolan, and others. But really, I think it's generally quite common. It's a very common occurrence that when somebody dies, there's this awful, awful, nauseating scrambling to squeeze the legend, really.
In the song, there's the memory of a fan. It's one encounter with that hero. Is that you?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. When I was much younger, I used to go to sound checks and hang around concert halls and try to meet people at, midday, things like that. So yes, that memory is there for me, really. When I met certain people, it was very, very important to me. It was a lasting memory.